All right, we are live. Welcome to another episode of the Nick and CJ show. But for this episode, we're actually going to recall it the Nick, CJ, and Ron show
Yeah.
today. Because you're more than a guest, you're a comrade. You're here really just hanging
Thank
out,
you.
talking, shooting the shit just like we normally do. So, welcome Ron, and what's up, Nick?
Yeah, it's glad to be back on the Nick and CJ show, and I had many conversations with Ron Placone. Definitely gotta start bringing him back on this show more often. It's always good to talk to Ron. In particular, I want to start this conversation with this because I mean, you guys seen the stream. CJ, our man CJ been killing the game recently, killing the game, driving dialogue, having the uncomfortable conversations that a lot of people are trying to avoid, right? So since we got Ron Placone on the show, this is especially now we are in 2022 and seeing the U.S. left continue to fail and be mocked worldwide by other workers' movements and left movements, because I see a lack of revolutionary discipline and ultimately resource management as well. And I'm going to ask CJ about your thoughts because there was a great conversation you guys have to check out. And much props to Brown Joy Gray and Katie Hopper because they had CJ and they had Afeni on when they know that we had criticisms of their strategy. So I give them a lot of props for that. You guys got to check out that conversation. And I'm going to ask you about that, CJ, here soon. But to start the conversation now, I'm going to ask Ron, like in a very broad sense, like what do you – well, I will ask yourself, like what is your goal? Like what do you see yourself pushing for, advocating for in 2022, and what direction would like to see the left moving? I'll get that toss up to you, Ron.
Well, I think we just need to trust our president. Biden's doing great. And no, quick side note.
I'm about to mute you. You about to get muted in the first few minutes, Ron.
I'm going to answer your question, but I have a quick aside before I answer the question because today is President's Day, and it irks me that is a day. They get an entire life. Presidents, they get a salary for life. For doing nothing. You could basically just be fine with war crimes for 4 to 8 years. Then you get a salary for life. You get a day too? Why do you get a day? I mean, for everyone who had a day off today, that's great. I'm happy that's like a cyclical effect of all this. But they should not have a freaking day. Have you ever known someone in your life who had multiple birthday parties just because they could, just because they're like, this one's for friends, this one's for family, and this one is for work people? That's the presidents. That's the president. That's what they do. We get an entire lifetime and a day in February. It's obnoxious. I don't like it much. I really don't.
So yeah, I want to talk about this because before we get
let me tell you. Let me just propose one thing, Nick, and it's just to piggyback off what Ron said. I tweeted this out. I proposed a different renaming today. Yes. Same people, we can honor them, but let's rename it to this. There we go.
Perfect. There we go. Now we got it.
I was just trying to find your tweet, CJ, because you said something like that on Twitter. Where if we're being honest, and this country loves soft language, the legendary George Carlin did a great bit about it, and it's a great way to cover up the crimes of the U.S. empire. And now you got people melting down about critical race theory. The meltdown about critical race theory is a bunch of white people who are patriotic who don't want to hear about the sins of their country. There it is. I just explained to you guys that's all. Like, it's not a complicated issue. It's literally a bunch of white people who don't want their kids to learn about the evils of the United States. That's it. So I'm digging through your time. I'm trying to find the tweet because CJ Century said that.
Oh, you're looking for that tweet? I can find it.
I didn't bookmark.
I have it bookmarked. Yeah, I have it bookmarked, so I can find it real quick. Oh yeah, here it goes. Actually, it's the first one. So let me share my screen. It's essentially what I put up on the screen, but it's a little more formatted for conversation. Here we go. President's Day should be changed to Racist Imperialist Day. So, I mean, it's not doing too bad. 366 likes is not, it's not too shabby. And then Nick's reply.
It could be the acronym can be RID, which is perfect. Like we should get rid of this.
Yes,
it's perfect.
Love it. Yeah, this is what we come up with at the Nick and CJ show, renaming holidays appropriately. There we go. Yeah, like the Indigenous Day, and we've already
Colonizers Day. That's
Yes.
that's another way. That's another thing to call it.
Right.
But as I say, there's no lies. Like if you guys think we're just being edgy, where's the lie? Chomsky said himself, like all the presidents in modern American history be tried for war crimes if that was actually a thing. And that was actually a thing. If there was a giant, imagine if there was like a power that was the equivalent, more powerful to than the USA is to Venezuela. You know, like comparably, like imagine there's another empire way more powerful than USA. And imagine just for this hypothetical scenario, they are actually like a just nation. They're like, we're actually going to use our power influence to go after the war criminals and the warmongers. We got, bro, the United States would be on top of their list. States, go ahead.
There's never been such an empire, but the thought sure is nice.
Yeah, so that's why I always speak out against like U.S. talking point, trying to like the whole thing about like Ukraine, fear mongering over Venezuela, fear mongering over quote unquote authoritarian leaders is all about increasing the military budget. And if you fall for that, you're actually whitewashing the crimes of the United States Imperial Corps by giving the impression that we have the moral high ground to do that. So when people say, why are you so obsessed with defending this dictator? I'm like, I don't give a fuck about this dictator. I don't like a single politician. Yeah. That includes Vladimir Putin. That includes the president of China. That includes the president anywhere. I don't like any politician inherently. But by justifying U.S. talking points against other rulers, that is by default giving them the moral high ground needed to justify the military budgets.
That's people like to pretend that the real world is a comic book where it's like, well, there has to be a good guy and a bad guy. So if you're saying that the U.S. isn't acting well, then you must be a Putin puppet, or vice versa. The U.S. can do no wrong. And it's just like, no. A world leader is a dick. In other news, the sun came up today. All world leaders are assholes. They're all terrible. But that doesn't mean we're not being the ringleader instigator here. We frickin' are. And we always do that. We do that time and time again because there's an elite few who profit off the war economy in the United States. We all know this. Smedley Butler wrote the book a long frickin' time ago. So, that doesn't mean there's anyone good involved. They're all bad guys, but we're just the lead bad guy. We're the biggest dick.
Right. That's actually part of my explanation of why I don't talk about Republicans as much, Ron, is that even in their own duopoly narrative that they created, the Republicans are the bad guys. So I think we need to dispel the notion that there's a good guy in the duopoly. And that's why I kind of go after the Democrats a lot more.
Look, what's that famous meme? I forget who did it first, but it became a pretty viral meme where it's like, I don't criticize Democrats because I'm on the same side as Republicans. I criticize Democrats because they're on the same side as Republicans. I don't know who did that first, but that meme went viral.
That's great.
I was just having this conversation with my friend who had like a viral tweet about this one. He said she was like, I criticize the Democrat Party more than Republicans because everyone knows the Republicans evil, but people still think the Democrat Party is on their side. But I took it a step further. It's more than that. Like, I want you guys to understand it's more than that. That's why we're gonna have this conversation very soon. And this is why I wanted to chime in on very bad when you guys had your conversation with Brown Joy and them, but we're gonna talk about that here very later.
Yeah.
And I don't buy into the lesser of two evils ideology. You gotta understand the different roles that they play. The different roles that they play. The Democratic Party is by far, in my lifetime, the more effective evil than the Republican Party. I am preparing op-ed. It's going to take some time to write this because I'm doing a ton of research. I may even talk to a few like professors if I can, because I'm going to compile this shit so I can link this and shut you guys up forever. Like the idea that, we got to vote for the Democratic Party because they're lesser two evils, that is beyond ridiculous. They're the more effective evil because they're more effective at killing movements and committing state violence. It was Bill Clinton that waged a war against children and gutted welfare and deregulated debate. It's Barack Obama that increased more war, right? And the Republicans, they keep it there. Don't get me wrong, they happily keep it there. But Joe Biden is funding ICE more than Trump. He is approved more offshore drilling. He's funding genocide in a record-breaking amount. So how do people say this is the lesser of two evils? So, and I'm gonna dive into this a little bit more, but I'm gonna get.
It's a very flawed concept because definitionally, I think it's fair to say that the Republicans are just on the surface a neo-fascist brigade. Like that's just definitionally what they are. The Democrats, although I would argue there's some Democrats who as individuals are neo-fascists in and of themselves, but the Democrats as an entire ideology are neoliberals. Neoliberalism leads to neo-fascism 100% of the time and vice versa. So we're stuck in this neoliberal to neo-fascist ping pong volley. We're the ball getting batted around. And here's the big kicker. They don't want to stop the volley because that volley is their freaking gravy train. And they're just kind of lofting us around neoliberalism, neo-fascism, neoliberalism, neo-fascism. And people want to jerk off about which is the lesser of two evils. It's a waste of bandwidth. We got to break the freaking volley. We got to end the ping pong game they're playing with us because it's freaking rigged.
And it's literally a waste of time to even go down that route, right? But I want to get CJ in here because there's a lot of points that we're gonna continue to bring up, and we're a channel that's gonna make people uncomfortable because we want to drive these discussions and dialogue because that's me and CJ actually talk about this. Like, there's this inclination to like immediately think that like public disagreement, like, oh my God, there's this video, there's big tension, and it's like people don't want to deal with.
Who are we canceling?
But it's like that's not what this is about. It's about having an organized left to actually have revolutionary discipline. Like when you look at the civil rights movement, there was a lot of infighting there. There were a lot of discussion about how this movement should be led. Malcolm X is a famous example, but there was a lot of black people that was like, I don't agree with MLK's tactics. And then they had those debates. They wasn't covered by white bourgeoisie media, but they happened. Lenin is famous for infighting. He called out his so-called revolutionaries all the time because he said you have to weed out bad ideas. And because the U.S. Left is filled with toxic positivity, and they refuse to have an engagement where it's like, if you call out Nina Turner, if you call out AOC, you must be a bad faith actor, canceled. No, this culture led us to be revolutionary, undisciplined in the West, right?
Absolutely.
And I kind of given my answer up too much already but I'll bring this up because you had a conversation with Andre Gray, Katie Hopper, which I give them all the props, because you had a legit criticism of their strategy, and they had you on. You talked. I'm gonna finish the whole thing, but you guys got to watch the call-in episode that Bree did with CJ. So I'm gonna pass it to CJ now. We heard from Ron. Like, just give background on that conversation, why it was important to be had, CJ.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of more evolved into more philosophically and not necessarily about specifically the siege, the house episode. I think I said that word right. I always say it the wrong way, but and I don't know. It seems, I don't know. The more I'm in this, Nick, the more I'm frustrated by people who don't see that this is not working. Or they see it's not working, but they still want to be a dead horse because the other option they don't want to do, which is general strike, which is get in the streets, which is protest, right? So I think that conversation was important for people that may listen to her to hear somebody who's on their side as far as policy articulate, no, let's not do this strategy, because there was one person who actually, one of the callers was like, I've never heard this before. He's like, I'm confused on like, what are we, you know what I mean? Like, what are we supposed to do? So I'm just saying, like, so I thought they never heard it. The way he articulated was that he never heard the strategy of not going through the Democratic Party.
Oh, interesting.
Of saying not to do that. Like he never heard that. He always thought that.
And that's why I give them props, because they gave you guys, like, most this side of the debate is usually not even allowed to happen. Like, if you look at the people who usually push, I'm not gonna name names just for the sake of keeping this episode peaceful, but it's like the people who usually advocate for this strategy, they will never have the other side on. This is something I was frustrated on, and which why I'm glad to have you guys on, because when I see people try to repeat our arguments in attempts to debunk them, I'm like, you guys don't even understand the goal. You guys don't even understand the criticism of electoral politics, because they were like, oh, these people don't have a vision of change. They don't really know what they're doing. I'm like, You guys don't even know the criticism. You guys don't know the criticism is about resource management. And I see the people go over it all the time. They never address my criticism of electoral politics. So and I'm gonna pass it right back to you, CJ, because what you said was interesting. The person that was listening to that show, they never heard it, and I see it. Yeah. When I say I'm done with the Democrat Party, I get responses from people who don't follow me. I know they don't follow me, and I look at like people they follow, it'd be like the establishment progressives, and they're like, what do you advocate there for? If not for taking over the Democrat Party. You don't know. You legitimately don't know. There's other.
They have no idea. They have no idea. So
what can we do other than vote?
Exactly.
There's nothing else we can possibly do.
And another thing, Ron and Nick, is just listen. When I was listening to a Sam Cedar episode or a clip where a caller called in, it got me to look at it from their point of view. So from their point of view, we're on their same side because they see themselves as leftists. We have to understand that even if we describe them otherwise, they see themselves as leftists. So he was saying, like, I don't understand, like, these leftists that are undermining us getting power in Congress. Like, you know what I mean? He doesn't understand because there's certain segment of leftists who, if you say electoral politics is not it, that's their only lane of thinking. So you're basically saying there's no option, there's no way. That's how they're interpreting it, internalizing it, because you get what I'm saying? That's their only avenue, is
they don't understand
thinking of it.
And I like the way I like to describe it, and we've had this conversation before, and I know that, I mean, hey, I end every Get Your News On with Ron episode saying peace, love, and a general strike. So, you know, it's no, I'm a huge general strike stan, but I always explain it where it's just like, look, electoral politics is just one tool in the toolkit for change. And it is a tool that we often over amplify because we talk about it nonstop because, you know, the whole horse race politics is an attractive thing for clicks and views and stuff like that. But, you know, here's all these other tools: direct actions, general strikes, protest, cause-based initiatives, you know, getting stuff on the ballot via ballot initiative, movement building on the local level, understanding your local food economy, electoralism on the local level, which I would argue is different than on the national level. These are all tools too. And I would argue that they're even more important than electoralism, you know, when you think about it at the federal level, because you just have so much power there. Well, I guess so much power is a little overly optimistic, but there's more transparency there. There is more transparency when you're going after a school board position or a city council position, or just, you know, getting involved on the ground floor, trying to get municipal broadband in your neighborhood, or trying to get, you know, a community garden going, or a mutual aid effort. There's just, that stuff is incredibly important, and it goes a long way. But it's not as sexy as bickering about, like, the Democrats, jeopardy. And so, you know, I feel like those other tools, and then people make it out like it's just either or. It's like some people on the left, they want nothing to do with electoralism and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, no, some of us are just saying, hey, if that's your lane, that's great. But our lane's over here, and it takes all of us. I mean, people love to say inside outside approach, and I'm always over here, and I'm like, I'm on the outside. And believe me, that's where you want me. You do not want me on the inside. I'm a comedian. I stream from my living room. I talk to a black cat. You do not want me on the inside. So here I am on the outside doing my best.
That is well said. And I actually, even with a lot of my new revolutionary changes, I still understand the strategy and the mindset behind the inside-outside game. Like there being a strong outside game that is organizing strikes, having strong mutual aid foundations, like CJ in Rome is doing right now. I am proud of my brothers. They was at Skid Row. Like, imagine we had a strong outside game that is doing stuff like that, and then we had an inside game that was responsive to the outside game. We have an inside game right now that is not only non-responsive to the outside game, they show active disdain to the outside game. When we march for Medicaid for all, they actively like, I'm not going to show up. when we advocate for strategies that we actually not even going to hear you out. We're not going to have a trial, even if you disagree on stuff like forced to vote. No trial, no discussion, because we are beneath them. We are beneath them, and we don't even deserve a hearing. That is the exact opposite of what the inside-outside strategy should be. But that is what they like. We believe in inside-outside strategy. If you vote for the Justice Democrats, no, you don't. You believe in top-down capitalist structures. That is what their movement is, and that's why they're failing. They're failing in mass right now, and they're asking questions. I can't believe we're not taking no Democrat Party. Why Nina Turner losing the election? Because you guys have no revolutionary discipline. Period.
Well, and that frustrated me too. This kind of echoes what you were saying. I've been a part of 2 campaigns. One was I campaigned for Bernie, so I guess technically 3. But I was part of a campaign for net neutrality, and I was part of a campaign for banning facial recognition. And I would say that both of those campaigns were relatively successful. I mean, shortly after the net neutrality one, we got a bill in California. We should be getting it back federally soon if they act on the FCC appointment, which is a whole fun can of worms. But and then facial recognition, the bans on it are continuing, which is freaking great. And what frustrates me is that you do see people in electoralism who make it out like there's some kind of hierarchy, like that is so much better than a cause like net neutrality or facial recognition or whatever. And when they don't win, they will complain. I mean, even, it wasn't everybody, but there were certain people, when Nina Turner in particular lost, they were blaming the left, overlooking the fact that she had to deal. The GOP was funneling money against her. No one was talking about that part. The DNC and the GOP was funneling money against her, and they were blaming other leftists.
Hey, Ron,
are you kidding?
Ron, a lot of people was literally getting mad at me, and they were blaming me. They was like, "You spoke out against Nina Turner." I'm like, "You guys really think that I am the reason why Nina Turner?"
It was your fault.
Are you guys serious?
And that frustrated me because I just thought, you know what? We never do it the other way around. I've never been on all those digital rights campaigns I mentioned. There was never anyone there who was just like, well, we could use some more people, but everyone's so focused on electoralism. No one ever said anything like that. It was always just like, this is our lane. This is what we do. And we're in it to win it. It was never like, well, where are you guys? Like, that's so counterproductive. So if electoralism is your lane, that's great. That's fine. We need you. But don't shame people who are in a different lane.
Mm-hmm. And that's what they try to do.
Yeah.
Like, when they had, I'll pass it right to you, CJ. But when they had the conversation with you, CJ, like Jim Perlman, for example, that's when it went south, because instead of, if they in love with electoral politics, instead of them just doing their thing, they must whip us into submission. Like CJ, his thing is not electoral politics. So it's like, why was she so desperate to trying to get him on board to the point where she kicked him off when he wasn't fucking going along with it? I want to get your thoughts, CJ, because I know you wanted to chime in earlier.
Yeah, no, because it was to one of your points. I forget which one made the point, but there's a section of the call-in episode. I'm gonna let it play. It's like a minute, where we can kind of hear what Bree says and then my response. So let's listen just for about a minute.
Failed impeachment and wasted a lot of precious time, because right now, as you said, the squad has the swing votes in the House, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. It's really embarrassing, and that the idea of just pushing people in the Democratic Party as if they're gonna change it, even though you have the best possible, like on paper, Cory Bush was the best thing ever.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Gabrielle. So for people on the panel too, is there a third party candidate? Do you have some third party candidates in mind who are running for seats that people should know about?
No, I don't. But I mean, what? That's not a good excuse from your part. I'm sorry.
No, it's not an excuse. I'm asking. That's not a gotcha. Like, I'm asking if people have people in mind that we should be focusing on, because I would be happy to bring them on the show and talk to them. Or are we just talking in the abstract about third party candidates without? Because I am legitimately curious. I mean, there have been these Green Party candidates, like our friend in New York, whose name just flew out of my brain. Black, gay, really sweet. Jabari Brisport, yeah. So like, there's people like Jabari Brisport who come along, and I get very excited about, and he was, successful, and
So that's just a slight foundation part I wanted you to hear. So the discussion is about
Brutus,
Green
who was a
Party
Democrat, who
candidates.
wasn't. And
Oops, I hit the button too quick. About Green Party candidates or third party candidates, and how hard it is to find third party candidates. And if it's this hard, sort of like why not the Democratic Party? That's sort of like what the conversation was going to.
it was very easy for me to identify them all as Democrats.
Yeah. So, if you're going to say non-corporate candidates, why can't Green Party? I mean, it's a rhetorical question. I know the answer to it. But yeah,
no, you don't know the answer to it,
have.
though. Like, I would say that, I mean, I wasn't a part of the selection process, but I would be very surprised if it's, some strategic choice to keep third-party candidates out. I think the same struggle that
Really?
you had, Jay.
When no one's on there, that'll be like saying,
Jay,
if there's no black people in something, if there's no black people on something, are we going to say it's not a strategic plan to keep black people out? I don't think that's
Jay,
I don't get that.
So you just finished telling me, Jay, that you struggled to put together a third-party panel, correct?
I did.
Okay, and I'm telling you, I'm going to add to that anecdote. I've been trying to put together a panel with the leadership of the Green Party, MPP, and Forward for weeks, and it has been a real struggle bus. I have tried over and over and over again to get, in particular, MPP people to. I mean, I don't want to. It's not a problem with MPP,
I get that
but
one.
it's a struggle. That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm not trying to alienate anybody or throw anybody under the bus, but it's a struggle. So, look. If you say you should have a third party panel and we decline to support third party candidates, have at it. But I don't think it's particularly useful to pretend like this is supporting a candidate like Michaela Wilkes or Christina Olivo or Rebecca Parsons is like some nefarious.
Now, this is the part I would like you to listen to, because I'm going to respond and explain how, because you can't find leftist candidates, Green Party, third party candidates, that doesn't mean to go back and beat the same dead horse. So, but listen to how I explain that.
Nefarious act. Like, that's the part of it that I think is a bad critique.
No, it's not. It's not a nefarious act to have those candidates. What's nefarious is that you're not telling us that it's Democrat, not you, but the person who put it together. The person who put it together. But hang on a second, Bree. The last point I want to make is this: us not being able to locate third-party candidates, the Democratic Party being as awful as they are, it's like staring all of us right in the face. Electoral politics is done. We're not getting anything done through electoral politics. It's staring us right in the face, but we're refusing to accept that as a movement. Because there's some of us who don't want to be in the streets doing the work. That's literally what's happening here. Is that it's people that don't want to take it there yet. So let's beat this dead horse some more. And I'm here, and I think RBN is here to say, to shake everybody awake. This is over. This is over. So I'll stop it there. But that was the point to me of the point that I took what I took away from that conversation, that I'm glad I got that point in, is that there comes a time where we have to say this is not working. And that was the point that I was trying to say, that if we're going to say electoral politics, third party, but if you're trying to say, we can't find third party candidates, so let's just revert back to the hellish Democratic Party. And that's where I'm saying, and that's where
it was a very interesting discussion, and this is a very interesting debate. I'm gonna get Ron Placone in here, and there's so much to add to this discussion. And if you're having a hard time, and I see people like criticize like the action of supporting third party for saying stuff like that. They'll say, "Where are your guys' candidates at?" I see this all the time. How many local elections have you won? You guys not getting it. I don't know what else to say other than you guys are not getting it. What did we talk about on this show? What did Chris Hedges talk about? What did Kashama Sawant talk about? And when I talk about electoral politics, and Ron brought up a great point when a lot of people pretend it's the be all end all. There's some people that are to my left, and I want to admit this because I don't see that as a moral virtue, who they're just say, I'm done with electoral politics altogether. So I'm like, okay, I guess like when you look at Rome, I'm comfortable enough to say Rome definitely to my left, especially on this issue. Because I say electoral politics is there to fill in the gaps that is not that you can't get done with mutual aid and direct action. So that should be our number one priority: mutual aid, direct action, and worker strikes. And then whatever you can't get done, like literally whatever you physically cannot get done without that, then electoral politics, which is I think that maybe 10%. if you ask me. And everyone got a different number. But Ron, do you want to chime in? I think you may have a thought. Because I still got a lot to say, but I want to get you in here.
No, I mean, I think that we also have to acknowledge that it's like all those other things, scratch the back of electoral politics. Look, no matter how nice your chosen politician tweets, or no matter how nice they sound when they speak, at the end of the day, there's a certain system in place. And in my lifetime, which, by the way, the left has been losing nonstop for about 100 years. It is time to kind of shake things up. What choice do we have? We have an 0-100 record. That's not so great. So I think that in my lifetime, the only time a politician has ever done anything remotely good at any level is when they're scared of losing their job. That is hands down the only time. The last time we had a sizable victory, which I guess was under 100 years ago, it wasn't quite 100, approximately 100 though, was the New Deal. We didn't get the New Deal because FDR was like, I'm going to be a nice guy. We got the New Deal because FDR looked around and realized what was going to go down and said to his rich buddies, we can either give up a little bit or we can give up all of it. You choose, because look at them out there. They're pissed. And by the way, there was a lot of infighting, a lot of it. But you know what? Kind of like what we were talking about earlier, the socialists and the anarchists and the communists and the unions, they got along just enough to really be a force to be reckoned with. And we got a New Deal. It's time for another New Deal, although I don't want what happens next to be just another Band-Aid on capitalism. I want it to be abolishing capitalism, because capitalism is the source of every mess that we've ever been in. It does the same thing every time it's tried. If capitalism was a car, it would break down every 2,000 miles. It is a freaking lemon. It will never work. There is no way to do it compassionately. That whole concept is so stupid. It's capitalism. And it doesn't need.
Hey, Ron, they say stuff like crony capitalism. Ron, they say stuff like, "Oh, that's crony capitalism."
Oh yeah, it's crony capitalism. It's corporatism. It's capitalism. It does the same thing. Stop apologizing for it. Stop mixing up what it actually is. It has gotten us into its mess. It's destroying the planet. And guess what? The climate's freaking collapsing. So we need to move into a way to do society where we focus on being stewards to the earth and meeting human needs. Is there a word for that? Yes, there is. It's literally called eco-socialism. That's what it's called. It's a thing that freaking exists, and it involves abolishing capitalism. That has to be done. So, at the end of the day, and that's why it's like, when you focus on just electoralism nonstop, how do we get this? How do we it's just like, no, we have to have a movement that is so loud, it can't be ignored. And we have to shut things down. It's like, what choice do we have? And people are like, that's so hard. Yeah, it's hard. You think a general in our society set up in a way that makes it even harder. But what's our freaking alternative? Jerking off about the Democratic Party forever? That doesn't sound like a good alternative. So, it doesn't really matter what you do in the voting booth at the end of the day if there's not going to be a general strike. And I wish it was, I wish there was an easier solution. But if there is, I'm not aware of it. And I would say, hey, if you got a better solution, let me know. I used to say that, but then I got stuff in my inbox that was so fucking absurd that I was not able to respond and be polite. So, yeah, general strike.
Yeah, and let me add this, because sometimes after conversations, people take the headline. So what I believe is that there has to be a multi-pronged plan, right?
Sure.
So, but my response that electoralism is dead to, like in that conversation, is to when we're putting all of our eggs into the electoral basket, that's when that mask has to be pulled off. That, hey, this is like, let's stop. This needs to be flipped, right? So electoral politics, boycotts, protests, third party voter registration drives, like mutual aid, all of this is happening at the same time, right? So that's how we bring about change. Now the way it's going to work out is that electoral politics is going to be a small part of it, because it only comes around every 2 or 4 years.
Yes.
Whereas all the other stuff is happening all between those 2 and 4 years. That's why that should be
Right.
the focus. Right.
Oh, totally, man. Well, and also, like, again, electoralism on the local level too. I mean,
Exactly.
it's like, look, 2022 is coming up, and we are all going to get like a lot of emails from people that are running for office. And again, I don't, I don't begrudge people who choose that route. Again, it takes all stripes, all lanes. I get that. But man, I got to tell you, I wish, looking back at past elections, I really wish that for every 10 emails I got from somebody running for Congress or Senate or something, I wish maybe just 3 of those or 4 was somebody running for city council or school board or mayor. You don't think that stuff is important? Go talk to people in Tennessee. Tell them how not important school board is. Go tell them. I think they'll disagree with you. So it's like, and that is where you can really make a difference in your community. And it's incredibly important. I know it's not sexy. I know it's not as good for clicks, but it's infinitely important if you're actually concerned with winning, which I am so freaking sick of losing for all of our entire lifetimes, for knowing nothing but Reaganism and Reaganism on steroids for our entire lifetime. It has brought society to its knees. And it needs to end. Like, it's not like, oh, well, this is shitty. Maybe we could do better. Like, no, it needs to end. We are plummeting as a society. I mean, in our lifetimes, it has got progressively worse. Progressively worse.
Absolutely.
And the better is not even better. And it's like, when's it going to stop? When's it going to stop? And this is another thing, getting back to lesser of two evilisms. This is what lesser of two evilisms gets you. When you just go, oh, well, we gotta, it's getting to the point. When's it going to stop? Like, are the Republicans just going to run a Mussolini hologram and the Democrats are going to run Donald Trump himself? Will it stop then? They're pretty much already there.
There's so many good things you said there, Ron. There's so many good points. Also, big shout out to Ashura, a friend of the show. It was their birthday. Happy birthday to Ashura, and thank you for the $5 super chat, Steve. But there's so many things you said there, because you discussed other important, like, local electoral politics goals that are actually effective, which I actually agree on, because I have Zoya, my sister, who helped co-found the 10 Demands with me, and she explains, like, on the local level, you can actually make a difference in terms of being an abolitionist, right? Like, so these tactics are not even being discussed, because there's like this giant vacuum that distracting people, that is national electoral politics, like the seizing the house, like taking over like, you see how these ridiculous ideas still and funnel energy away from the otherwise tactics I will agree with in electoralism, like Ron just explained, and my sister Zoya explains this all the time. And then when they explain it to me, I'm like, why do people not focus on this shit then? They're focused on retweeting the Justice Democrats, and they want to talk to the person running for Congress. I'm challenging Jim Clyburn in an election. There's no way I'm gonna win. Hey, I'm some guy who challenging Hakeem Jeffries in a race I'm not gonna win. So why do we spend all this time on this grift instead of, like, good tactics? It's not talked about because the giant national campaign, which is a grift, because Jeff Weaver gets a 6-figure salary out of your donations, by the way, and his job is to lose elections, and he takes a 6-figure salary. instead of these other tactics, even within electoral politics, we can do, right? And one more thing I want to bring up, and I'm gonna pass it to you guys, your thoughts on this, because whenever I hear about third-party doomerism, because it's going back to the video that CJ was sharing, right? Where people have third-party doomerism. What about the candidates? There are no candidates on the ballots. So how can we support a third party with no candidates? So for one, you already missed the mark, because the point of a third party in this capitalist hellhole where we know the elections are rigged, the only value of a third party is as a workers' movement. Do we understand that? That's the only value. I'm not interested in third parties outside of being a workers' movement. Are we clear on that? As a third party movement, our number one concern shouldn't even be winning these bourgeoisie capitalist elections. It should be about elevating worker struggles and putting attention on the worker struggles. Because once again, I really wish I was in this conversation. Because Bree quoted me. She said something that Nick brings up all the time is how he doesn't regret the Bernie campaign, which I do not, because I use that as an avenue to radicalize people. So even though I was technically representing Bernie Sanders, I was talking to my brothers and sisters about why we deserve health care. And I was talking to them about how we deserve to have our medical debt and student loan canceled. So that's why I don't regret it. So now my new position is, even if we don't win, they always say third party is impossible. Okay, why not use that as a mechanism to spread awareness about worker movements and labor struggles and in the prison industrial complex? That's the value of that. And then when they bring up the fact that, third parties not on the ballots, instead of doing that unnecessary doomerism, why not explain why? And I'm bringing this up for a reason. I see people have third-party doomerism, and they say, you guys are supporting third parties. They're not even on the ballot. And then they go on and proceed to explain why that is not the case. You guys notice that? You guys notice? And I ain't gonna call anyone out, but people say this all the time. We shouldn't support third parties because they get on the ballot. They don't get on the ballot because the Democratic Party, the party you funneling people to, is fighting them and kicking people off the ballots. And because the capitalist system that you think you can reform, they put rules in place to make it harder for them to get on the ballots. So instead of having this doomerism saying, I don't support third parties because they can't on the ballot, why not educate people on that? I noticed when people bring that up, they never bring up the alternative. And I will pass it to the panel here because this is the last thing I'm going to share. I noticed the same people who have this third-party doomerism are the same fools who were tricked into supporting the Voting Rights Act, right? The Voting Rights Bill
that had those poison pills in it.
Yes, and so these same people say we can't support third parties because third parties not viable, but then they support a party and a bill that would kill third parties. So can they be honest? And they're not directed about anyone. They're not directed at Bree or Katie because I don't think that's their intention. But the people who repeat this third-party doomerism, can you guys just admit that you guys don't like third parties and you guys want to be a part of the Democratic Party grift and apparatus? Can you guys just be honest about that? Because I noticed the same people who repeat third-party bullshit are the same people who never bring this up. They never bring our channel. Maybe I think Ron as well. There's only a handful of channels that ever even covered this. How third parties may disappear from ballot under Freedom to Vote Act provision. So instead of actively working to make third parties stronger, which you guys are not, you guys are siding with the Democratic Party to destroy them. And I would love to have a conversation with people who don't understand my argument about this. I never get invited on them. People ain't about that heat. But anyway, anyone got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the rules change, and I think that's kind of what this comes back to. It's like, yeah, they're set up against third parties, and it's that way because their gravy train keeps rolling when they have duopoly set up the way it is. So, I would like to see, but when you look at other countries, I mean, the reason our Overton window is just so ridiculously absurd. Like it is absurd. I mean, the Democratic Party in most other countries, the Democratic Party would be your furthest right option. There would not be something to the right of that, at least not something with any real, electoral power at all. But here, they're supposedly the alternative to the right. They're supposed to be the alternative, which is beyond absurd. There's a number of reasons why it's that way, but one of the reasons is we don't have a multi-party system where you have, different balances of power, where maybe something like the Greens or the PSL or whoever has a couple seats here and there. Maybe they don't have a ton of seats, but when you have some, you have to have alliances that are formed. You have to kind of meet them where they're at. I mean, I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine who's from Sweden, and he's like, yeah, you realize that the reason our politics are better than your guys's, he didn't put it in those terms exactly, but that's essentially what he was saying, is because they have to meet the communists, they have to meet the socialists, they have to meet them. They have a voice. They have a seat at the table. Maybe they don't have a ton of seats, but they have some, and you have to meet them. There is no pressure to meet anyone in American politics. It doesn't exist. Instead, there's this sense of entitlement that the Democratic Party is entitled to green votes. They're entitled to it. And then they scold the Green Party when they don't win. Meanwhile, it's like, even on these local efforts, it's just like, did you approach the Green Party? Did you say, hey, I'd like to talk to you guys. I'm the best option on the ballot. I want to meet you guys where you're at. You didn't? You just felt entitled to those votes? That's not how elections are supposed to work. That's not how, quote unquote, democracy, I put it in quotes because God knows we don't have it, but that's not how that's supposed to work. So, the game has to change. And that's why, again, and this gets back into more direct action and more cause-based initiatives. A good way to try to change these games, getting money out of politics, ranked choice voting. I mean, and those are ballot initiatives that you can pursue. Public banks. These are all ways that can change the electoral rules. So that's my take.
Well said.
No, absolutely.
So that's my overall take, like, on why it's important to build a third party, because as Chris Hedges and Kushrama Sawant said, we need to build a workers' movement. You are not building a workers' movement in the Democratic Party, and I'm promising you guys, the boutique left knows that. Do you think I am smarter than these people? I am a college dropout. I am not smarter than these people. They are not I am telling you, they are not interested in the workers' movement. If you're one of the people that actively speak out against third parties, that assigns to me that you're just not interested, because it's not going to happen in the Democratic Party. We've seen evidence of this. The Amazon workers were just complaining that AOC ditched them. What? I explained before, if I was a politician, if I was elected, I would be so pro working class. These strikes, they would be kicking me out at a point. They're like, all right, Nick, I think you're trying to get publicity off of us. We good. Stop showing up at every strike. God damn it, leave us alone. They would literally tell me to fuck off, because they would think I'm doing it for PR. But I'm like, no, this is the only thing I'm here for. AOC, on the other hand, she ghosted them. So how is that worker solidarity going in the Democratic Party?
Well, and they should have their union vote at the end of March, but Amazon has already gone to some of the dirty tricks they went to before. Amazon has already, spread a bunch of anti-union literature. I mean, they're doing all the same dirty tricks. Yeah, you can find it. Like there's just, they already are trying to go after the Staten Island thing. And you know why they do that? And this is Amazon, Starbucks. These are all these demonizations of any union efforts. It's not because over the course of the year, they'll save money by not having a union. It would actually probably just be more cost effective for them to just treat people with respect and dignity, give them living wages, instead of putting all these resources into fighting a union. What they're really scared of, though, is a systemic change, a true systemic change where workers have rights, where workers are treated properly, where workers have good benefits and they get a decent vacation and they get living wages. And that's going to be a system that's going to take place all throughout the country. And workers are going to use their leverage when they're mistreated, the way that workers do it in places like Germany, places like France, places like Italy. They're scared of that systemic change. And this is the Starbucks thing that just happened in Buffalo.
Yeah, I literally just saw this, and I don't know that much about the detail, but we can kind of go through it together. But this is just another example of capitalist retaliation against the workers. So Starbucks has fired one of the leading worker union organizers in Buffalo. So if you're one of the people who think we live in a country with just laws, explain to me, how is this legal? It probably not. They probably just get away with it, because even if you do have a law in the book, who enforces the law? The capitalist class.
The people they donate to. That's
So,
like all the Starbucks people that they have in their back pockets. That's who gonna,
a lot of people think we
This
sound
person has
crazy
no
when they hear our
chance.
politics, man. But I think you guys are crazy. Like, this shit is legal in your society. Like, in the society that you live in, you can have a worker demonstration where you demand more value for your worker and your labor costs, right? And then your boss can retaliate and fire you. This is a barbaric society. Like, people are like, oh my God, Nick, you're an abolitionist. Your society will be crazy. No, your society is crazy. Your society is lawless. This is a lawless society for the capitalist class to plunder the working class, destroy your environment. But CJ, what was you about to say?
No, I was just saying that I brought up another item here. It looks like it's a couple more pictures of her working, and I don't have as good as eyesight as some of you, but it looks like there's a write-up about her here. And then from her Facebook post. Oh, this is her Facebook post. This is not the company I signed on to in 2017, and this just further proves that we need a union in our store. Starbucks is making a big mistake, and I will be spending this newfound time supporting my partners through the union in any way that I can.
Well, and they did in Memphis, they fired an entire group of workers.
I saw that too,
there were 7 of them, I believe. They were all fired, and they were given these absurd excuses. Like the one, like the guy was off the clock, and he, I guess he he had his mask off when he was like off the clock. So he might have just been off the clock, and he took a sip of water or something. And they were like, you can't do. I mean, so they were making up these reasons to fire them, all 7 of them. And they fired them all. In reality, they were trying to get a union in the Memphis store. So they got rid of them. And now they're doing the same thing here in Buffalo, because Buffalo had moved forward on a union as well. And, I mean, you look at what Amazon did in Bessemer, Alabama, where they pulled out so many dirty tricks. The labor board said, you have to redo this election. This is nuts. I mean, this is dystopian what you did with this thing. They took out traffic lights, for crying out loud, so that people couldn't pass out union literature to fellow workers in their cars. That's how far they freaking went. So, I know, right? I mean, it's incredible that they got away with that. They pumped millions into campaigns in Seattle to try to make sure people like Kshama Sawant don't get reelected. I mean, it is, and again, they're not afraid of short-term consequences. They're afraid of a societal shift. They're afraid of a day in America where we actually have a true, solid working class. And guess what? We already have it. We have the power. We just have to figure out a way to effectively wield it and go on strike. Have a general strike.
So I've been, as an abolitionist, especially at 10 Demands, we've been trying to educate people and we are asking society as a whole, what is a crime? Like, what are you guys talking about? As someone who's decolonized my mind, we would say, oh, the crime rates are up. You can't defund the police because we're not being able to solve crimes. What is a crime?
Because they do that all the time.
Like,
the cops always solve crime. That's what they do. They solve crime constantly, right? That's all the cops they just go around there. They're like Scooby-Doo, but it's real life. They're always solving crime. It's not like they solve less than 2% or anything like that. They're great at it. They're awesome. Let's give them more money.
People think. I'm using that for now. I'm still in that, Ron. Scooby-Doo. That's really what people think the police do. They really think they go around chasing clues. But so, as someone whose mind is decolonized, and I'm going to continue to ask this question because I don't think anyone has the right answer to this. What is a crime? What is a crime? If you know the answer to this question, put it in the chat. What is so when they have these crime rates, right? They're like, all right, this guy murdered this guy. Let's mark it down as a crime. So when the United States drone strikes and kill an innocent civilian, does that get marked down as a crime?
Nope.
When Wall Street illegally forecloses on people's homes, does that get marked down as a crime? So if you define crime as a wrongdoing,
business.
So wouldn't most people define crime as a wrongdoing? Right. So if I Googled this while we was talking, and apparently it's not legal under any circumstance to fire a worker that is striking, but they do it anyway.
Yeah.
But do they mark that as because they just broke the law? They just broke the law. So does that get marked down as a crime? Kellogg just committed a crime. Let me show you guys this. I covered this when it happened at the time. Here, check this out. People are spamming Kellogg job board after the company fired 1,400 striking union workers.
That was so cool when that happened, though.
So I want to give you guys thoughts on this, but when this happened, so that's 1,400 crimes, right? Because I'm gonna show you guys the receipts on it. It's literally illegal to do this, but they did it and they got away with it. So as far as I'm concerned, that this is 1,400 crimes. Does this get reported? Does this get marked down as a crime? If it doesn't, and you define crime as a wrongdoing, I am asking you, what is your definition? Someone explain to me what is a crime. Is it when Obama bombed Doctors Without Borders? Is that a crime? Oh, it's not? That's not marked down. He's not in prison. He's not going under a trial right now. So I am asking for the people who still defend giant police states and think abolitionists are unreasonable. I am asking you straight up, what is your definition of a crime? I promise you, not one person is going to be able to answer this question. I debate Garland Nixon on defund the police. He's on our side. He just had debates over. He had criticism over marketing. But I have been asking for over a year now. Like, hey, I tweeted about it multiple times. Hey guys, if you for giant police budgets, I'm here to talk. I promise you, you have been propagandized if you think these giant police budgets are justified.
Yeah, because they're being used to militarize them. You know, I mean, that's what it goes towards. It goes towards like being able to commit war crimes against American citizens, and that's exactly what's happening. I mean, something happened in Portland last night, or was it 2 nights ago? There was a protester that got killed in Portland. I don't know all the details on it. I wish I did, but you know, it's. I don't know. I mean, I get how some people have some issues with the marketing, but I'll be honest with you guys, I kind of have a hard time with that because I'm an abolished guy myself, so I don't know. Like if the fun's too far for you, I'm like, well, I guess we gotta get back to the drawing board because I'm kind of an abolish the police guy myself. I can explain it, but you know,
it's just the people who say that they just don't acknowledge the fact that our strategy works. So that they will say, "Oh, you can't have defund the police. Defund the police is a bad slogan. It will turn people off our movement." The exact opposite happened, though.
What movement are they describing? What movement are they describing if it's not defund the police?
That's a great question.
When they say that,
those are the people
what
who
movement?
Those are the people who don't like demands as slogans. It's a good slogan because it's a demand. These are the same people who thought "Build Back Better" was a good slogan. Like the people, hope and change, good slogan. Make America great again, great slogan. Defund the police, a demand? Nope, that's not a good slogan. You're too direct. Why don't you use more flowery language? That's not enough flowery language and bullshit speak for me.
So this is kind of awkward.
We get right to it. We don't got time for bullshit. Hey, I think police need less money, so let's defund that motherfucker. And then a lot of people are acting confused, like, what do you guys mean when you say defund the police? But you guys are 100% aware of what defunding education means. You guys do it all the time. You guys defund education. You guys defund roads. You guys defund public health care and Medicaid. But now when we say defund the police, all of a sudden you guys, I don't understand how the concept of moving and reallocating resources of government go. Fuck out of it. I'm beyond lost patience for these people. And I give credit to Jimmy because he did a great segment a few days ago because I've been criticizing and I've been upset at the fact that RBN, we've been the only people that have been debunking the aggressive propaganda we've been hit with this year. And people are ignoring it. Like every day, I can Google it right now, probably find a new one. Every day, there is a story that is complete bullshit. There's I'm not talking about right-wing media. I'm talking about in CNN and MSNBC. Every fucking day, there's a fear-mongering story about the crime rates and why we should increase the police state more. I don't hear anyone talking about this. I don't hear anyone like, I'm fighting against authoritarianism. I'm against mandates, which I agree with you on that. People like, I'm against mandates, I stand against authoritarianism. But then they're dead silent on the police state, which is successful. That's what I was talking to Franco and them about the other day. Like,
how did that go? By the way, I only caught the first bit.
It was a great conversation.
I only caught the first. How did you strategy and the tactic?
When we were talking about the convoy, I brought up my same 3 things that you need to talk about when you analyze any social movement. And when you had people talking about this issue, there was so much unseriousness because I see there was no analyzing the movement. It's like, I agree with the ass, they're great people. I don't agree with the ass, they're white supremacists. I'm like, what are you guys gonna be? Is anyone gonna be intellectually serious about this? Right. So when I was talking to him, one of the points I brought up, and it was a great conversation. We vibe really well, and this is what we need more of. Because at first, me and Franco, we had disagreement on Twitter, but then we talked about, like, oh shit, we actually agree on this. Like, it's like one of the things, like we actually agree on this shit, right? So I was explaining, and this is what I explain to people who are super, like, their number one priority is like the fight against mandates. I'm like, you guys are winning. Like, mandates are disappearing. Like, the police state is winning their war against us, but people are distracted by that. Kim Iverson, she was like, mandates are so important. I want to vote for the Republican Party to stand up against authoritarianism, ignoring the fact that the Republican Party want to fund the police more. They support the Patriot Act. So I'm seeing people being blinded and distracted. When I'm like, we got a real authoritarianism problem going on that was not invented in 2020. Like, a lot of people.
Can I say like a side thing on that?
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Whenever people use that thing where it's like, oh, I'm gonna vote Republican because, you know, the Democrats are just so corrupt and blah blah blah, so I'm gonna vote Republican. And it's like, well, wait, aren't you doing the same lesser of two evil thing that you're saying we shouldn't do? So you're just doing it from a different angle. Like, you're still like you're still just like, you're not saying that the Republicans aren't evil. They are. You're just saying like, well, I'm going to vote for them because the Dems are just so. It's like, okay, so you're doing the same thing you're mad at everyone else for doing. You're just doing it from a different angle because you've, like, you know, applied the pretzel logic to make this seem like constructive or contrarian. It's like, and by the way, I live in California, where like a ton of times we just have, you know, we have like a jungle, you know, the jungle primary. I mean, CJ, you know, and it's like a lot of times I'll just leave something blank. Like when I have a corporatist or a corporatist on the ballot, I just leave it blank. And if there's a peace and freedom candidate, I vote for them. Or if there's not, I leave it blank. I do that all the time. It's like, you don't have to. You don't have
my ballot is blank. A lot of my ballot is blank too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm usually only excited about ballot initiatives. Like I mean, when I think about with the last, you know, big midterm 2018, I was excited to vote for rent control. I was excited to vote for a public bank. There wasn't a candidate.
Why were you though? Why were you as a resident, as a voter? Why are you? What makes initiatives more exciting to you?
Because they're like things that I support, like a public bank.
But it's direct, because it's a more direct form of, it's like, this is actually what's going to happen if I say yes, I'm totally getting it. You get what I mean? Because it's more direct. That was the point I was getting to.
No, I gotcha.
It's a more direct way of getting democracy. And I think that initiatives, I just love the idea. And I love when California, it seems like California is, as far as all the states, Ron, are the state that we're in, they do pretty good as with getting certain things on ballots and passed. Actually,
we do, and so, you know, again, I'm totally with you, and yeah, it's great. It's not all. It's not necessarily always easy. I mean, well, it's never easy, but you know, it's always. Not. I mean, think about some of the misses we've had too. To be fair, I mean, we really shit the bed on
the Uber one.
The Uber one,
The
we
ride
shit the bed on.
share.
We shit the bed on that big time. And you know who
Yes.
didn't shit the bed on that? The UK. They got that one right. But we shit the bed on it big time. And we were a template for the rest of the country. Because Uber and Lyft, they were looking at that and they were like, I mean, they could have just gotten out of California. They could have, they
Yes.
make plenty of money. But they were looking at that and they're like, okay, if we can pull this off in California, where can't we pull this off when we have to? And we failed on that. And the reason we failed is not because everybody just loves Uber and Lyft. It's because they have a lot of money to fuel propaganda campaigns, whether it's against public banks or against workers' rights when it comes to ride sharing, or whether it comes to prescription drugs. They always know how to fuel their propaganda campaigns against ballot initiatives. So it's not like we're just going directly to the people without any propaganda in the way. But you know what? It's a hell of a lot better than having to listen to these blank suit candidates babble about nothing time and time freaking again. And you can actually just connect on the issue. So yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, in a perfect world, I wish we could just get rid of the Senate, get rid of the House, have a people's legislature. The only administrative position we have is a president, and we pick them via a draft. It's a shitty job that no one wants. You get paid minimum wage for 4 years, and then you've served your time. It's like jury duty. And that's the way we do things. We just vote direct. We do it. Mike Gravel wrote a book about it. Check it out.
Yeah, I actually advocate for this. Once I started saying people, we need to stop being in love with like politicians and electoralism. I said direct ballot initiatives is probably one of the few things we should probably focus on in terms of electoral politics, especially as a Missourian. Let me tell you guys a story about why I believe in direct democracy, ballot initiatives, and this is why.
Can I ask you a question before you tell your story?
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Do you think, and this is just a semantic thing, I guess, but would you consider like ballot initiatives and those kind of actions? Would you say that is still electoral politics?
Yeah, that's definitely
really
okay.
I would define it. I would say that's a little different,
and I think I have a great way to explain still why it's electoral politics. But that doesn't make it a bad thing, because I explain everyone has a number on what percentage you should focus on electoral politics. And I said multiple times, my number is about 15%. 50%, only about 15% of your energy should go to electoral politics. The rest should be mutual aid, direct action, and that kind of stuff. And within that 15% is ballot initiatives. And the reason why I consider it electoral politics, because you still kind of got to go through the rules in order to get it approved. So I actually have a story for you guys, and I'm 100% an advocate of direct democracy, but I want you guys to know, even with ballot initiatives, we still got to have revolutionary spirit, and we got to get ready to hit the streets. So I live in a red state, and the reason why I am strongly in support of ballot initiatives is because it actually kind of debunks capitalist two-party duopoly propaganda. So I'm explaining. I'm sorry I'm gonna be long here, so feel free to interrupt me because I'm trying to frame this right. So they say if you are progressive, you can't run on progressive ideas in red states or in purple states, or you will lose. Meanwhile, Claire McCaskill ran to Josh Hawley's right. You guys know that? The crazy fascist Republican senator, Josh Hawley. She ran to his right during the campaign because she was arguing that Josh Hawley would not get the wall built and get the wall done because he's young and inexperienced. She said Claire was making the argument because she's able to reach bipartisan agreements. She will actually be more effective at building the wall. Like she was running pro-wall campaign ads in Missouri.
It's so ridiculous.
And she lost to Josh Hawley, and everyone wouldn't blame me because they're like, you didn't vote for Claire McCaskill? Because yeah, she was a Trump fucking Democrat. She was running on literally building the wall. In that same election, that election where Donald Trump won, that same election where Josh Hawley lost to Claire McCaskill, Missouri increased our minimum wage through ballot initiative. We introduced medical marijuana through ballot initiative.
Yes,
so didn't that destroy the idea that you're supposed to be some sort of fucking capitalist moderate to win? The same people that were like, I support Josh Hawley or Claire McCaskill, they voted for a Medicaid expansion. So I'm gonna wrap my point up here very soon. So we got a Medicaid expansion passed in Missouri, and this was very interesting. I was trying to find the article, but I'm mad I can't find the follow up to this. I'll show you guys the first part, right? So check this out. So we passed the ballot initiative, but we Republicans have a supermajority in Missouri. So we passed the ballot initiative, and the GOP governor of our state refused to sign it into law, and then they continued to block it. No one covered this except us. We only had like 2,000 subscribers at the time.
I mean, yeah, man, and that's an excellent point about ballot initiatives. That's a really.
It's not like this is not like a and the only reason I interrupt you because I'm not trying to like put a negative spin on ballot initiatives.
No, I understand.
I'm just adding another point to this. And there's actually a good news to the story, which is why I interrupted you as well, because also this is not like a woe is me story. Mm-hmm. You guys want to know what's extremely interesting? And I'm trying to find the article because I reported on this a while ago. So I'm sorry I don't have the receipt right in front of me, but I'm gonna try and find it. Despite the fact that you had the GOP governor veto it, the House GOP Republicans doing anything they can to block it, the right-wing Missouri Supreme Court overturned them and say you cannot overturn the will of the voters. Isn't that strange? So the House Republicans killed our direct ballot movement, and then the extreme right-wing, and trust me, I have nothing good to say about the Missouri Supreme Court.
Sure.
It's crazy. But they was like, you guys can't do that. That's unconstitutional. So then we had a loss, and then we won again. Now, the update to this that I was reading now, the Republicans are trying to put work like requirements on the Medicaid expansion. They lost. So now they're trying to means test it. So you see how it's kind of an up and down story. So you got to continue pressure. And maybe the Supreme Court not going to be there to bail us out all the time.
Well, and also it's like,
go ahead, Ron.
You have to stay loud. I mean, you really have to stay loud when it comes to these things. And yeah, I mean, isn't it interesting too that the same Blue No Matter Who people who yelled at everybody saying, I know he's not great, but you got to support Joe Manchin. Those are the same people who go, we can't get anything done because Joe Manchin's here. We can't get anything done. I mean, it just whenever you say someone like Claire McCaskill, I think of people like Joe Manchin.
I'm trying to see if I can find. I think is this it? Damn, I don't think this is it. I was trying to find you guys. I would let one of these days. I'm gonna find the campaign ad. I saw it on TV one day. I didn't have a platform at the time, so I couldn't race tweet about it. But that campaign ad where Claire McCaskill strongly came out in support of the Trump wall. It's something I would never forget.
Oh yeah,
I
remember that. She is terrible and was terrible.
After that shit happened,
isn't she on MSNBC now?
Yeah, she's like
people giving advice.
Giving advice. That's great.
See that. People will see. This is one receipt I just quickly found. I would love to find a video, but people will see this shit, and then you guys know why I got frustrated when the people kept saying that the Democrats are the lesser of two evils. When I keep seeing Democrats ads when they were like, "Yeah, I support Trump on all his campaigns." I don't have the video, but this is like the article version. This came out in 2018. McCaskill and other red state Democrat senators court Trump supporters and bid to keep their seats. So this is the article version of what I just explained to you. I want to find the video. Fuck, it's gonna be hard to find. It's gonna be hard to find, but you guys see what I'm making. Do you guys understand how it's ridiculous to me when the white bourgeoisie make the argument that the Democrat Party is the lesser of two evils? When black and brown people continue to see like the exact opposite, like they were trying to gaslight us to death. Yeah, the Democrats are funding the police more. Yeah, Claire McCaskill is running on Josh Hawley's right on immigration. But don't believe your eyes. Don't believe your eyes. Trust us. When I tell you that Jim Crow Joe is not a racist, but when Bernie Sanders tell you that Joe Biden is a good person, don't believe your foolish eyes. Don't trust your ridiculous instincts. What are you, woke? Believe in the Democrat Party. Do you guys understand what the frustration kicks in? For me,
no clue.
I have.
What are you frustrated about?
So, I was. CJ, do you have a story? Because I have a story I want to do, but it may be better if I do it alone because I may be ranting about it.
So you're
a story. I'll let you present a story. Do you have anything you want to present? We got a few.
I mean, I did want to get yeah, I did want to get sort of your take or bring up the story of nah, I'm not gonna bring that story up. I'm not gonna bring that story up.
we talk about
yeah, because I wanna run it by both of you first before I bring it up. But let me do this. I do have another snippet of that call-in call. It's a slightly different topic, but also related. And whoever clipped this sped up the playback, so it's gonna, the playback is gonna sound like, I'm a chipmunk or talking fast. But listen to this point here, and then I'll discuss it with both of you on the other side. Let's move this back here.
The way that everybody or whoever's describing it this way, how do we ever get rid of the red-blue game doing it the way you're talking about, where we're electing progressives to the less racist imperialist team? And think about that. This is another big point that needs to be discussed here. And that is, none of the non-corporate Democrats who are running, none of your ideas is the point of politics. So you not taking money is irrelevant if your boss takes money from corporations. It truly is irrelevant. Because you don't take money, but you're joining a team that takes money. You're for Medicare for all, but you're joining a team that's not for it. You're for defund the police, but you're joining a team that's not for it. Politics is not about your individual belief. Politics is about...
It cuts off right there. I didn't stop it. It just cuts off right there. I think he ran out of time. Or actually, no, it was only 38 seconds. But the point there was politics is not about your individual belief. It's about your team. And to me, Ron and Nick, that particular point, ever since the seize the house thing, that particular point has been ringing stronger and stronger in my mind, is that when we campaign, we want somebody to believe in this and this and this, really those beliefs only can come true if the team that person is joining also believes in that stuff. Because if you think about it, what do we have? 230 some odd Democrats in the House. Are we executing 230 some odd ideas? No, we're executing one. And that's the Democratic establishment's idea, not some newly elected person like
whatever Nancy Pelosi want to put for a vote. For
exactly, example, right? And her donors tell her what to do. So, that is, that is the point. It's like, it literally, they've made it this way though. It's unfortunate. We wish that you being non-corporate had an actual effect. You know what I mean? Like you being non-corporate had an actual effect on anything, and it doesn't. But the system is so corrupt, and it has made it this way. Go ahead.
Well, and the thing too is, like, if you are going against your team, are you using all the leverage you have at any given moment to get there? And time again, look, I mean, and I'm sure y'all get this too, where it's like, you're being too hard on this squad. They're outnumbered and blah, blah, blah. Look, no one's denying they're outnumbered. We can all count. Mm-hmm. But all anyone has ever asked, at least as far as I could see, anyone has ever asked them to use the leverage they have effectively to fight for the policies that they promised when they were running for office. That's it. No one expects AOC or anyone else to ride on a dragon Khaleesi style and just breathe Medicare for all on the people. No one's expecting that. Everyone knows that's not how freaking politics work. But every single time, we just lose again. Every single time. Just enough people voted present. Just enough people voted
right,
no.
Exactly.
They don't vote as a block. They admitted it. They don't vote as a block. The progressive, I mean, what does it take to get into the progressive caucus? I think it just means you have progressive insurance. I think that's all that means.
That's it.
I mean, there's no barometer whatsoever with getting in there. They don't vote as a block. They don't use any kind of leverage. That includes the caucus. That includes the squad. So it's just like, well, what is this? What are we doing here? And then we're always just told, well, we got to just replace this person and this person and this person. It's like, okay, at this rate, I mean, we'll see a moderate change in maybe 50 years. Maybe in 40 to 50 years, we'll see a moderate change. The same time that Joe Biden would maybe do something about climate change is when we will see a moderate change. And it's just like, we can't. This is ridiculous. Like, this is for this to be your only vehicle. Good story.
AOC gave us a 30-year timetable to get Medicare for all. That's what she said. So my response to the people who do not have a sense of urgency, and this study is old, so this study is kind of trash, but last time it was reported, as far as my knowledge, 68,000 Americans die each year because they don't have health care. Now, once again, do the math. Do 68,000 times 30 years, times 20 years. You guys are willing to sacrifice this many people because you just don't want to advocate for a general strike? Is that what we're really doing? That's how I look at it.
That's what people are really doing, and that to me, what is so frustrating. That's kind of like what I was describing earlier, like the frustrating part. That I mean, come on, like just in the last 3 elections, like each 3 elections, you can say that this strategy has been proven not to not to do anything. Like just literally in the last 3 elections, who have been elected in the last 3 elections? AOC was elected 2 elections ago, maybe 3 elections ago. Jamal Bowman was elected.
He set the record for how fast it takes to stimulate an establishment. That boy immediately started voting like Elliot Engel. Like he was like, I'm gonna replace Elliot Engel, but I'm gonna show him I'll vote for apartheid. No one votes for apartheid nicer than I do.
I don't follow any politicians on Twitter. I don't follow any of them. And to be honest with you, I mute a lot of them. And it's not out of anger or hate or anything like that. It's just out of, I consider you all the ministry of appeasement. I mean, just that painfully condescending, insulting to everyone's intelligence. What would insert thing I'm not going to fight for do for you and your family? You don't need to ask that. You know the answer. It would make our lives better, and you're not actually doing anything about it. It's so condescending and ridiculous. And I know that it's not something big, and I am only one person. But if I can, at the very least, just not follow them. I mean, what would it say if every single, and I know that Twitter is not the real world, but still, what would it say if every single elected official, not just the ones that do the ministry of appeasement, but all of them, Republican, Democrat, everything in between, they all had 0 followers, 0. And every time they tweeted, they were just ratioed by people like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing about this? Yeah, we know this is a nice thing. We don't need you to tell us. We need to tell you it's a nice thing, because guess what? You never have to worry about going bankrupt if someone in your family breaks their arm. You don't have to worry about that. You have good health care for the rest of your damn life. You know, you're in a class. I mean, that's the thing. It's like these politicians, they can just pay the ticket or take the ticket to Easy Street for the rest of their lives, like with as soon as they get the gig. So it's like, that's why, I mean, again, when people are just like, oh no, we have to play nice, we have to do this. Look, I want to be the excuse for people like this squad. And what I mean by that is I want to be the person who's outside screaming at the top of my lungs, and I want them to have to go, hey, Mama Bear, you see those people out there? Those are the people who got me elected, and they're loyal to policies. They're not loyal to me or you or anybody. They're loyal to policies. And if you don't meet us midway, if you don't do politics with us, then they'll replace me, and the person they replace me with might not be as friendly. So make up your mind. I mean, it's like we have to just be so loud that no matter who it is, no matter how nice they sound, again, change only happens electorally. Even if electoral politics is your lane, change still only happens electorally if you have a bunch of people who are scared they're going to lose their job. Right.
That's why I always say, even even in the strategy of staying with the Democratic Party, if you want them to take you seriously, if you're progressives, you have to be willing to not vote for them at least a cycle. Like you have to show them that it can't be, hey, I may not vote for you. You have to literally like be like, this year, like this is written off. We're not voting for you, to show you that, you know, our power. We're not voting for you, and watch them lose. That's how you have to do it. You have to follow through. It can't be a threat. It can't be a threat. It has to be a, you know, just a, hey, you know, nope, this year we're not going to vote for you. These are our demands. If we're not voting for you, to show you, and you can see the repercussions. In 8 years, these are the, you know, this is what we need to have happen in order for us to come back to the table to support you. I think it needs to be something like that. Go ahead.
I agree with you 110%. The only thing I would add to that is that it can't just be like, well, we're not going to vote for you. It also has to be like there's a movement in the streets, because
Absolutely.
I would argue, and I have a feeling both you are going to agree, but I would argue the Democratic Party as a whole, the establishment as a whole, their first priority is not winning. Their first priority is, let's keep the donors happy. Their second priority is, if we can beat a Republican or two, great. As long as it doesn't get so ridiculous that people realize we're the freaking Harlem Globetrotters and Washington Generals of America. And then, so their first priority is not winning. So there has to be a movement in the streets where it's like, okay, this is going to upset the system as we know it. This is going to upset our apple cart. So it can't just be, well, I'm going to hold my vote. I mean, totally do that. Withhold your vote. I mean, on a national level, I pretty much vote third party, or I leave it blank. But like, we need to also just have, I mean, there needs to be a general strike. Again, like everything to me just kind of comes back to a general strike. I don't see how there's any other solution.
The trucker convoy situation just showed us. It just gave us an example of what we were talking about.
What's going on in Seattle is also showing us
that too. Absolutely.
Seattle, they shut down the whole, and it bothers me that no one's talking about that, by the way. They shut down they shut down a multi-billion-dollar project because they were like, we're not giving you your cement until you treat us better and until you meet our demands here. They shut it down, and people were scared of that. I mean, if we did that, I mean, honestly, like even a general strike, like it wouldn't need to last more than like a handful of days.
Yeah, they put on themselves.
Before the people who really run this are like, okay, we can't have this. We can't have this. I mean, the past couple years have shown us how fragile the system is, and it's a rubber band ready to break. But the working class is the backbone of it all. It's always been that way, and it's still that way. And the oligarchs just count on you to keep it going.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why they can't allow mass demonstrations, and the reason why they want to shut down so quick, is because these giant movements are extremely infectious. And you started seeing these other strikes and movement once people saw Amazon workers organize. They saw the Kellogg workers organize, and all of a sudden you got more people start asking questions of their employment. Right. So, and that's the reason why they had to shut down extremely quick. Because can you imagine? And this is the people who they lack imagination. So these are the people who say, "Oh, general strike. I don't think that will lead to anything." Like, can you imagine the extreme effect of shutting down economies and having workers withhold their labor on a mass scale? What that would do? You have few people going to work in some industry, and they're like, "Shit, they're striking. What about us? We got complaints. We got asked." You can start a global strike movement. Like, if people see that workers are striking in capitalist hellhole America, like you have workers striking in other countries as well. Like South Korea, they was on general strike. They was on general strike in Colombia as well, protesting against Duque. That was supported by the Biden administration as well. So it's an effective anti-capitalist action that they don't even want people to even think about. Like, they just want you to trust your HR manager, which doesn't work for you. They want you. They work for the boss. If you have a complaint, if you're upset, just go to your HR manager and they get deal with it. Don't worry about. Don't strike. Don't join a union. Like, that's what they want us program to think, right?
Let me bring up the Seattle story real quick, Nick. that he quickly mentioned, since we're talking about striking workers. This is the striking workers. This is from a couple of days ago, but major projects at standstill as concrete workers strike across King County. There's several stories, but I mean, several articles that you can pull up. But like Ron described, they are scared. They're absolutely scared. I'm just looking through some of the other headlines. Concrete strike could delay West Seattle bridge repair. King County makes novel multi-million-dollar bid to end crippling concrete strike. So, you know, different industries. This also illustrates too the power of different industries and which industries, like when we're strategizing for a general strike, we want to get certain industries involved because those certain industries are able to impact capitalists better or more effectively than others. And I guess in this situation in Seattle, the cement industry is very impactful in that area.
When you see this new workers uprising, and don't get it twisted, guys, this is in retaliation, and we gotta get better at framing the things as a worker movement. I love how Chris Hedges frames this. Our boycott and actions is in retaliation of the capitalist boycott. Like they've been boycotting the wage increases, they've been boycotting paying taxes, so they've been waging class war against us for a very, very long time. My entire life, at least, they've been waging class war, and people are not even fighting it back. So this goes back to our earlier conversations where people don't even understand my criticisms of electoral politics. When I see people talk about our position, it's always very cartoonish. And my position is simply, instead of investing so much money into some person's career aspirations, why not do a door-to-door campaign to spread awareness on strikes? And CJ hit the nail on top of the head. There's something about the boutique left and boutique America in general that they just love the electoral system. They love elections, and that's why they don't want to give up electoral politics, because there's something that they enjoy out of the process of making phone banking, going door to door. Look at the polls. Oh my God, this candidate is up in the polls. Oh my God, it's election day. Oh my God, the polls. They love that shit. So if you love that process, why not turn that into something that will actually benefit workers? So if you love phone banking, if you love canvassing, why not phone bank for worker strikes? Why not go door to door like, yo, this is what you should be demanding as a worker? Like, there's so many different opportunities for this. And these are just, and this goes back to our earlier conversation, when people don't know the alternatives, when they say, oh, you don't believe in voting for the Democrat Party, what's the alternative? This is. Instead of going door to door for X candidate, go door to door for your local strike that's going on in your area.
Well, that's the thing, man. I think a lot of people, and I'm not talking about, any like online faction or anything like that. I'm just talking about just regular people living their lives. I think a lot of people, like, they just can't imagine like a different action or a better action. And I think that kind of gets into the whole, we've had a defanging process of unions that has been happening over the course of 60 years. And it was deliberate. I mean, we had a strong working class in this country. And then come about the 60s and onward, they were like, okay, we don't like this. We got to start dismantling this. And they defanged a lot of unions. They drove unions off. They eliminated altogether. I mean, we used to have a large portion of the working class in unions. Now I think we're at about like 11%, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And sometimes, the people who they appoint at the top aren't always acting on behalf of workers. So that kind of also spoils people to the idea of unions because they don't know what it means to be in a good one versus one that's not really looking out for you. And I mean, so we have a lot to just overcome to really change like the entire just neoliberal infrastructure that we've been living under for like 40 plus years.
I love the point that you brought up, Ron, because that is so important. And there's some reason on the U.S. left, they are super scared to criticize unions. Like, they are terrified to criticize unions. And I want you guys to understand, a lot of the unions are not going to save us. And people are like, oh, you can't have a general strike without unions on your side. Like a lot of the unions are not on our side. And because what Ron just explained, that's such a great point. Because I want you guys to understand when unions was at its strongest in the United States, unions was ran by socialists and communists. You guys know that? Mm-hmm. Unions in America was at its strongest when American communists and American socialists was leading it. And then because of the Red Scare and because of the Cold War, they were driven out of unions. And then capitalists hijacked the unions.
Yeah.
So I explained that when you had a lot of these worker strikes, I think the one that was in Kansas, why I'm blanking on that, Frito-Lay. A lot of people didn't do follow-up on that story when they were like, oh my God, the union leaders are meeting with activists. And then I did a story where it was exposed the union leaders was meeting with these people so they can get them to drop their demands. A lot of the unions been captured by the capitalist class, but for some reason, there's so many people on the left, they don't even want to acknowledge this reality. This is not
and that's a very overly simplistic way to look at it when they take that approach. I mean, look, I'm a very pro-union guy in principle, absolutely. But you know what? I'm not in favor of every union. Police officers have a union, for crying out loud. And I think we're at a moment in history where we need to foster the good unions, because they certainly are still out there. And we need to also reinvent the wheel on what it really means to have a union. Yeah. And we have to confront that head on. Look, I know someone in my personal life. I mean, we were just talking shop about, everything going on right now. And I was talking about all this, and he was saying his only personal experience was he was working at a hotel and his union rep told him, hey, you don't get both healthcare or a 401k. You get one or the other. You got to pick one. What? Are you kidding? And that's the kind of stuff that does happen. And so you need to, you really need to make people see what potential a union has and what it means to have a real union, not just one that has been defanged over the course of 60 years. And to deny that that has happened in the United States, that's beyond counterproductive. Why would you do that? Why would you deny that realization? Why would you deny, this was part of the defanging of the working class? They neutered unions.
And there's another great point that you mentioned that I want to add some more context to. When you explain how a lot of poor union represented the workers, I'm explaining it poorly, but the capitalists who hijack the union, they do a bad job representing the workers on purpose. I explained it. I did a long segment before explaining this because I had worked in Kansas. I live in Kansas City. We're pretty much a border city, right? I worked in Kansas, which is a right to work state. And I'm telling you guys, the unions there are trash. And it is by design, because that's how they sell right to work. They say this is the capitalists came in, they ran out the communists and the socialists, and then they purposely started charging high dues, and then they would side with the management. And then they wouldn't do anything for the workers on purpose. But so then people will go around and say, you pay the unions dues. Why would you pay the union dues when they're not doing anything for you? You should have the right to work anywhere you want to without the influence of a union that don't do anything for you. So the capitalists hijacking the union, not doing anything for the workers, it's actually a part of it's a long-term psyop that was extremely successful. And I want to get CJ thoughts in here. One of the reasons why they don't have a minimum wage in a lot of these Scandinavian countries is because their unions are so anti-capitalist. They're so strong against the managerial class, and they strongly fight for the wages of workers. They quite literally don't need one. They don't need a minimum wage because their unions are so strong. That is quite literally the exact opposite in the United States. Many unions, the leadership is captured by the capitalist class, and just like in Frito-Lay, in my backyard, they would join with the management to end the strike, not to give you more benefits. But I know you wanted to ask something, CJ. I'll pass it to you.
No, I was just gonna say, Josana spoke to this point. When from her international perspective, she just doesn't get unions. She thinks that. Similar to what you were saying before, they could do better without the union, almost like the union is holding her back. But like you're saying, but here it's quite the opposite. Unions could be effective, or a lot more effective, if, of course, they weren't captured by the capitalist class, and that's the union leadership. But this was one of the questions in the general strike: is that what does the union provide for a general strike? And how do we get that thing without union leadership? So that means the rank and file. How do we get the people without the leadership? How do we get them on board without the leadership? And I think selling them on the kitchen table issues is how we would get them. It's like, hey, yeah, you're working here, but are you making enough to pay this? How many days of vacation? What's your sick pay look like? So yeah, I think we still.
So at this point, we have about 20 minutes left. I want to get to some super chats. I want to get to some comments, and let's see how far we can get into those. I have a few saved. Thank you for the $5. The Traveler. Progressives have been extremely disappointing. They can kill bills, but they choose not to. They're not willing to put names on the record for us. With that said, I'm gonna do a stream tomorrow night. I'm gonna say another story I have planned today for tomorrow because I really do think I need time to individually parse through all of it. It's gonna be crazy. But Brian Joy Gray just had on the House progressive leader in California. Remember that story we did with the California killed
the Medicare for All bill.
Yeah, Medicare for All bill in California. He just came on Brian Joy Gray show, and it was a very interesting conversation. And I do not.
Wait, which one was it? Was it that Ash Kalra, the guy who wouldn't bring it up to a vote? Yeah, I mean, that was so infuriating. I
want to hear your thoughts on that because
sure,
I love Gray, and I was about to say it did not go well for him. It did not go well for him.
No, because
Ron, what's your thoughts on it?
I mean, what happened was they didn't bring it up for a vote. And then he had a Zoom call where now, by the way, let's do a quick brief summary of the history of single payer in California. When Arnold Schwarzenegger, a GOP governor who's for sure going to veto it, when he was governor and they knew there'd be a governor veto, somehow they had no problem getting it through assembly and to his desk when they knew he'd veto it. And then he vetoed it. And they're like, gee shucks. Well, look at how good we're doing, though. That now, all of a sudden, with a Democrat supermajority, they just can't get it. They just can't put it up to a vote. And Anthony Rendon stabbed the single-payer bill in the back a couple years ago. What has happened to him since? It has benefited his career. He is now a darling in the eye of establishment. He has soared because of it. Now, Ash Kalra, who a lot of people in California considered an ally. He's the co-author of the bill. He's on our side. And in fairness, the guy's been behind some okay legislation in the past. He really has. I'm not going to say he hasn't. But he decided to not put this up for a vote. And he decided, and I said this to him in the Zoom room, not everyone was happy with me, but whatever. I was just like, look, you are making a deliberate choice. Multiple people asked him for names. He wouldn't give them. We were like, who are the people we need to apparently primary if they're supposedly the people who held this back that you decided not to put it up for a vote? And I said, you are making a deliberate choice right now. You are choosing your cronies and your buddies over we the people. You're deliberately choosing that. There is no denying this. And I was just saying to people, I was like, if you can do this and not pay a political price, it is going to happen for another 13 years. This has been going on for 13 years. It will go on for another 13 because people are still saying, oh, he's a nice guy. He's an ally. He just made a mistake. He's sorry. He's feel bad about this. You know what? One of the first lessons my mom taught me when I was a kid, actions speak louder than words. And forgiveness is a great thing. He's sorry. Okay. That's great that he's sorry.
He's sorry.
I forgive you. But you know what? That doesn't mean there aren't consequences. If that guy came up to me right now and said, I'm sorry, I'd be like, okay, that's cool. Maybe you really feel bad about what you did. Are you going to vote for me in the future? No!
Resign.
No! That's like, have you ever been a little kid and you did something wrong and you get punished and then you do feel bad about it and you're like, I'm really sorry. I messed up. I really am sorry. And your parents would go, I forgive you. Okay, so can I go out and play now? No. Actions have consequences. That doesn't mean that's cool that you're sorry. That's great. I mean, everyone's just like, oh no, he's an ally. He's this. He feels bad. He's just like, no, he made a deliberate choice. And if he does not pay a political price, that will go on for another 13 years. And this is why, I mean, My blood was boiling, and they're just like, just vote for more Democrats, just vote for more Democrats, just vote for more Democrats. Meanwhile, the way this guy who went on and said, oh, we just didn't have the votes, and that's why I killed the bill. This guy, simultaneously, there is somebody running in my district for state assembly. She supports the single payer bill. Her opponent doesn't. This guy who has some political power, who's just saying, you just got to get me more allies and I'll put it up for a vote. He has not endorsed her. He hasn't even endorsed her. It's like, I mean, they're not even pretending. They're not even pretending. And man, if these are allies, well, with friends like this, who needs enemies if these are your allies? I mean, this is nuts. And it's going to go on for another 13 years if no one pays a political price. And I guarantee you, chances are nobody will. I mean, it's so freaking ridiculous. It is just so...
So I don't know if you
that's
saw
my experience.
I don't know if you saw the interview. Like, I might cover it tomorrow that he did with Brown Joy Gray. It did not go well for him, and I don't I don't know. You imply that there's some people apologize for him. If you're apologizing for this guy, and I ain't finished the interview, I got finished the rest of it. But if you're apologizing for this guy, you're a clown. Like, this dude is straight up. Like, he could not answer the question why he didn't put up for a vote.
Yeah, he couldn't do it.
I'm gonna break down the video more in detail tomorrow. But Bree did a good job kind of grilling him. She was holding his feet to the fire. And I'm like, I don't know why he even agreed to this. I don't know if he thought Bree was going to be nicer to him. It's beyond comprehension, his point of view. He's like, we got to convince more people to support healthcare, and we got to convince the people that don't support healthcare. And Bree like, all right, who's those people? Well, we got to make sure we work with them. We don't want to alienate them. Man. And I'm like,
multiple people asked him for names. And I said, I was just like, I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you going to give us names? Because you're making a deliberate choice that I think the word I said, this is at best cowardly, at worst deceptive. I said it right to his face. He didn't respond to me. He had the person running the meeting responded. They just, he didn't respond. But I was like, this is at best cowardly, at worst, deceptive. Are you going to give us names? And he wouldn't do it. I mean, people asked him.
He wouldn't do it.
He wouldn't do it. So he made a deliberate choice.
So literally the best case, and we'll get two more chats. I'll break it down more in the stream tomorrow. Literally the best case interpretation of what he's doing. And I don't have the best case interpretation. After watching that interview and watching him do everything he can to protect the centrists on his team, you shouldn't give him a best case interpretation. But the best case interpretation you can give him is he is deeply, deeply incompetent. And that's giving him... Yeah, and that's giving him a lot of benefit of the doubt. Like, just having that take is like saying you're not malicious, you're not dumb, you're not corrupt, tool of the establishment. You're just really dumb and naive. That is the most generous. And I'm gonna cover this more tomorrow. Cause we really do got to get into some more chats. But CJ, do you have any overall thoughts? I don't want to cut you off. Anything you want to add?
No. I want to get to the chats. I do have a couple of things to get, but let's do it after the chat.
Yeah,
slightly on a different short.
Yeah, I saw this comment. This comment backs up what I was saying earlier. Claire boasted that she boasted that she voted with Trump 60% of the time.
Yeah,
and I remember that. I remember that. You carried that memory because I told you, I'm in Missouri, man. I saw those ads all the time.
Yeah.
She used to say, "Yo, I am bipartisan. I voted with Trump 60% of the time."
People make it out like bipartisanship is something to celebrate. All bipartisan means is Republicans have a terrible idea. Dems are down to help them sell it. That's all it means. That is all it means 100% of the time. Because it never goes the other way. I mean, and that's just like the way they have it set up. It's never like, oh, Republicans are going along with this Democrat idea, unless it's like a really terrible idea. Usually it's like Republicans have this bad idea. Dems are going along with it. That's it. That's all bipartisanship means. Or they're bipartisanship. They're both teaming up to screw over third parties.
That's why I tell people
it's another bipartisan effort.
So this is one of my other radical opinions that I think I can back it up, and which has gone to back up what Ron is saying. If you think the filibuster, this is me. If you think getting rid of the filibuster is going to lead to progressive change, that's not going to happen. Because I am asking you, I'm challenging people. When have the filibuster ever stopped the establishment from getting what they wanted? The filibuster never does, because whenever they work bipartisanship, they're fucking you over, which they were doing in overtime. They are funding the police more in a bipartisan effort. They bipartisan agree with funding the state violence more. They agree with the class war. Like, so when it's bipartisan, it's a bad thing. Like the whole culture war and cultural divide that they play up and pretend that they're different, they're not. Look past that. But yeah, that was, and I still remember he was like, "Oh my God, can't believe progressives didn't vote for Claire." You guys was not here, man. She ran one of the most disgusting campaigns I've ever seen. Like, if you guys think Hillary ran a bad campaign, if you guys think Biden ran a bad, if you guys think, and when I say bad, I mean like right wing. If you think they ran a right wing campaign, you guys have not seen shit. And I need someone to do a compilation of Claire McCaskill campaign ads because she was horrible. And as someone from Missouri, I still say this, even knowing how bad Josh Hawley is, I'm still happy she lost. She was horrible, guys. I can't emphasize that enough. There is literally no difference between Josh Hawley and Claire McCaskill. I want you guys to understand that. Josh Hawley may piss you off. He may say more edgier stuff, but functionally, there is no difference. She was as bad as it gets.
You know what? Right until this conversation, I thought she was great. I'm really surprised. I had no idea. I thought she was. I thought she was one of the good guys.
Let's see. We got another one. We have $2 from Meter Dreams. Ron, what's your thoughts on the trucker convoy? If you want to answer that, that's a really that's a long question, but
yeah, that's a pretty. I mean, I'll admit I've not been following it as closely as others have, just because I've been more focused on what's going on with Starbucks and the unions, what's going on up in Seattle with the cement thing. I mean, those have just been the things I've been having a lower ear to the ground for. I think there's a little bit of a lot, isn't there? Because there's so many people there, and there's, there's some some of it's like right-wing astroturfing. Some of them are Nazis. Justin Trudeau's response, I think, is pretty nuts. He froze bank accounts and it wasn't just like, it wasn't like
anyone can support that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's nuts. Like how can you, I don't even know how you can even begin to measure that. Cause he said anyone who ever gave money to anybody involved. And it's like, how can you even, first of all, like, how are you able to do that? How are you able to even measure that? How do you know, just every single person there? I mean, it's one of those things. It's such a big thing that, to make it as simple as like, it is all good, it is all bad, it is all this, it is all that. I don't know how you can even quantify that. And then to have that response for a prime minister to do something like that, or even be able to try to do something like that, is pretty nuts, dude. That's pretty nuts. So yeah, I guess that's what do you guys think?
Yeah, I had a conversation with you guys really should check out the conversation I had with I was talking with DeFranco, Fiorella, my revolutionary Black House sister still is Meg. She was on the panel as well. We talked about this, and we had it seemed at first like we had a disagreement, but when we got together, like we all came together because I had a few things I was questioning about the convoy. But to make it very quick, we gotta wrap up soon. We talk about this all the time. I simply divide any movement up into three things. Do you support the ask? Do you support the tactics? Do you support the people? Right? So when it comes to the ask, me personally, I support ending mandates, right? So that's me agreeing with the ask. And if you don't agree with the ask, just be honest and say that. Just be honest and say you support mandates. Because I have noticed the people who smear this movement as filled with white supremacists, millions of people, including people of color and black people also there, instead of doing that, just be honest and say you don't support the ask. Because I noticed the people who smear them as white supremacists, they do that because they support mandates. And I wish you would just be honest and say that.
So
right?
are you saying there's none of that there? Like that's not
so, because
I think it's safe to say, some of that is there.
My position is I don't give no white people benefit of the doubt on this. And I don't know why some white people feel the need to be the gatekeeper on this. Or, oh, you're a white supremacist. Like, I don't know. You're not racist, Susan. How do I know you, Susan, never called the cops on a black person because you were scared, right? So the reason why I reject this premise is because some white people put them as some white people like, I am the person who defines what white supremacist is. You guys want to know my radical thought as a black Marxist? If you vote for Joe Biden, how the hell can you call someone else a white supremacist when you vote for the guy who supported the crime bill? That's where I stand. So my position is, how can you wave the moral high ground? Yes, there was Nazi flags, but there were also Asian provocateurs, and you gotta acknowledge that. I seen a video where people saw some guy who was waving the Confederate flag, and they asked him to leave.
But whenever there's
go ahead, Ron.
Whenever there's a movement where you have like different astroturfing involved and different provocateurs involved, I think to classify it as all good or all bad, I don't see how that's possible.
Exactly.
I don't see how it's as simple as like, yes, this is great. No, this is not great. Yes, this is. I mean, I think that's just a gross oversimplification. So I think it's totally fair to say I definitely don't support all the ideas of everyone there. I definitely don't support what Justin Trudeau's doing.
Yeah, and I think that's a nuanced take on this. And I don't know if you want to break down your part of your part is, but my thing is I'm 2 out of 3. Like when I list those 3 things, I'm like I personally support the ass. I personally support the tactics because we just had a conversation about the general strike. If you're one of the people like, oh my god, they're destroying local economies, business. What do you guys think a general strike or a revolution is going to look like? So as a leftist, you shouldn't have any issue with the tactics. I think that should be like uniform, right? Then there's the people, which this is why I was talking to the Fiorello and Franco, and then they came to agreement. Like, especially since I see the mandates lifting, your movement is winning. You guys are being successful. So what's next? What's next? And there are a lot of people that support this movement. There are capitalists who are openly anti-union, anti-worker. And there are some people who pretend that's not the case. Like, you can support the ask, you can support the tactics without ignoring the fact that there are capitalists like Donald Trump Jr. who support this movement. Are you guys going to allow the capitalists to hijack this movement because you guys want to keep this false peace where you guys don't want to ever mention the fact that there are capitalists that support this movement? So once the mandates are lifted, once you guys are successful, what is this movement turning into? That's why I want people to be critical of. Like, make sure you guys put pressure on the people that are part of the protest, who are part of the protest, saying we got to fight against communism. Because I've seen that too. Like, I've seen people like, this is an anti-communist movement. Fuck that. I'm not joining that. And I'm going to be critical of that while supporting the act and the tactics. So I don't want to get to it for longer because we talked about this many, many times. CJ, anything you want to add to this?
Not on the trucker. Like, I'm just tapped out on certain conversations. That's one.
Yeah, like we got all these workers moving, and Ron brought
I'm tapped out on this stuff. Yeah,
the trucker convoy is getting plenty coverage, guys. I'm gonna highlight the stuff that's not getting coverage. You remember the whole thing about Black authors being pulled from stores because of critical. People not talking about that, so I'd rather cover stuff like that.
People aren't talking about that. People aren't talking about how they're going after digital libraries now to remove copies of Mouse because they want the money. The publishers want the money. People aren't talking about, you get into the realm of digital rights. I mean, everyone's talking about, free speech and censorship and this and that. How many people did you see cover the Earn It Act? Do you guys know? Have you guys been on top of that or?
I think that's more things that we need to learn about.
No. I mean, and that's fine, but it's like the Earn It Act is a bill that basically allows legislatures to just monitor stuff going on the internet. It basically ends encryption, and it's under the guise of protecting children. Meanwhile, it would make all of us more vulnerable on the internet. It wouldn't protect anyone. It is a total dystopian Orwellian nightmare. It blows a hole in Section 230, which anyone who is for blowing a hole in Section 230 likely hasn't read the damn thing. So, I mean, again, and yeah, I mean, that's why I admittedly have not been following the trucker thing super closely because, I mean, there's just all these other things going on simultaneously that no one else is talking about. And on my show, it's like, look, right in the theme song, I talk about the stuff I like: protest, politics, digital rights, climate change, MMT, and strikes.
And once again, a lot of the right-wingers who think this is the most important story ever, because they're like, this is authoritarianism, the government cracking down. Guys, in the United States, right now, the same right wing that supports this trucker convoy, they are passing laws that will make it effectively illegal to protest. You guys, where's the conversation about this? I covered this. In Florida, they passed a bill that will make it effectively illegal to protest because you had to get permission from the state. They're like, we're gonna take away our other protections, but if you don't worry, if you get a judge to sign up on this, you're good. That means they're saying it's banned. Then there's another law that passed that said if you're a protester, people that are inconvenienced by your protest can hit you with a car, which is also de facto making protests illegal because you're not providing the protesters no protection. So I am asking the people who just discovered authoritarianism in 2020, why can't we get attention to those things and energy to those things? That's the only thing I'm asking. And that's coming from someone who support the ask, right? So let's get into some more chats because we did multiple live streams. So let's move on to the next one.
Let's go through the chat. Super
what
chats. I don't know where you left off. I don't know where you left off.
I didn't see this one. I can tell just looking at this is going to be a complicated one. If the U.S. attacks eastern Ukraine tomorrow, it won't matter how many subs you have. And I love you guys, but we may not exist after all that. Seriously. Yeah.
If the U.S. attacks eastern Ukraine tomorrow.
So there's a lot of news and breaking.
Why wouldn't it matter we have subs? Because them attacking is going to do what?
They're essentially saying that if World War III started, it's pretty much be the end of society as we know it.
So yeah,
that's what they're saying.
I mean, what's that quote where it's like, I don't know who said it, where it's like, I don't know what World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones or something like that. You know the quote I'm talking? Whatever.
I don't get the fear. I don't get the fear of World War III, but not the fear of the planet dying. That's the point that I'm making. Is
we're pretty much screwed.
What like either way. So this is the fear you're gonna put, not the planet dying. Okay, that's my reaction to that.
Yeah.
So there's like breaking, like there's like escalation. I haven't paid attention that much today because I've been offline mostly today, but. Like,
no, I've seen the escalation.
I gotta read into it. I don't know. I need to see what's going on now. But I think that's where the fear is coming from because like the warmongers are doing what warmongers do. I have no idea what this is about. $10 from Donnie. Ron, please tell them about the Zeitgeist movement. Do you want to?
Peter Joseph has a movie called The Zeitgeist, and the Zeitgeist movement is the thing that's around it. I don't know how active it is right now, but.
I don't know much about that.
I like Peter Joseph. I recommend Inner Reflections. That's his new stuff. It's a book. It's a book and a movie. I've seen the movie. I've read the book. It's good stuff. Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, I have nothing else to add, but thank you for the $10 there. Well, I think this is a comment that kind of like goes over some of the hysteria I see in the chat. U.S. orders state personnel out of Ukraine. And I think I heard something how Putin declared like they acknowledge the independence of like I don't know how to pronounce it. Like I need to prepare more for the story before I can. But I did see how like Putin declared they acknowledge the independence of these areas that support separation from Ukraine. And now like war criminals and neocons are saying, yes, this is it. This is it. We gotta really get the troops in there. We gotta fight. I don't know. I gotta read more into it, but there's like a big escalation that happened tonight. But I was offline, so I haven't been following that much. Maybe we talk about our International Leftist Coalition this week. Let's see. What else did we miss? There's one for Steve. I don't think we saw. Ran for nonpartisan city council. Got 18% with $1,500. Winner spent $150K. That's actually not bad. That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Then fought harder. That's another thing. Then fought me harder than right wingers. It isn't as easy as people think.
That's the truth, man. I mean, they hate. I mean, the Democratic establishment, they hate progressive challengers more than anything else. Like they really do. I mean, because again, like they're colleagues with the Republicans, you know. And I know, like, you know, nonpartisan city council, like, yeah, that's a little different, but you really know where people are at, you know. And so yeah, I'm glad you had a run, Steve, and I hope you consider it again in the future.
Yes, I think that's all the super chats that we had. I want to take this time to obviously thank Ron for coming on, friend of Revolutionary Blackout as always. But I want to give you opportunity. Any last thoughts? Anything else you want to promote as well? We still have a few things covered, but we gotta have you back on.
All right, man. Yeah, I feel like we talked about a lot of stuff. We covered a lot of ground. So yeah, I mean, I'll just let everyone know. I got some tour dates coming up in April. I'm actually going to be in Canada. So I'll be in Pittsburgh, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Burlington, Portland, Maine, Boston, and New York City. You can get tickets for all those shows right now at my website, ronplacone.com. My YouTube channel is just YouTube, Ron Placone. the Rockfin, Ron Placone. You can get my podcast, Get Your News On with Ron, on YouTube or Rockfin or wherever you get your podcasts. And I know some people mentioned the People's Party thing. Do we want to touch on that? Like really quick?
Oh my God. I'm so sorry, guys. I forgot about that. That actually is one of the stories that I wanted to talk about. Because there's so much to break down that. I don't know how much time we have, but we can quickly give our quick
Yeah, we could talk about it.
Because I know CJ talked about it a little bit earlier. I may talk about it a little bit more because we don't have a ton of time, but we can quickly discuss it. I did see you guys was asking about it, and I put it on a backlog, but we didn't get to it. But we can quickly talk about it. Renee, she was on Status Quo today.
Yeah, I saw that.
Where she had a pretty breaking stream. And fun fact, I don't know if you guys know this, the very first stream that we did on this channel, formerly known as Fred Hampton Leftist, we had Renee on, me and RJ. That was the very first live stream we did, where she was talking about the issues that she had with the People Party and them purging people who had disagreements. And we was like, this is very interesting. And that's why we gave her a platform. I platformed her on my other channel, my old channel, SocialistMMA. So I had her on my old channel. No one followed that one. But then we had formerly known as Fred Hampton Leftist. She was the first guest we had. And I'm like, we got to at least air these grievances out and have the conversation, right? And in a nutshell, the only thing I'm gonna say, and I'm talking about more on my live stream tomorrow, and then I'm gonna get Ron and CJ thoughts. What we are seeing with the People Party right now, and Paula Jean Swearengin just renounced them as well to show you guys how serious it is. This is why we've been speaking out against top-down structures, haven't we? So when I see this story, I'm like, this pretty much proves everything we've been saying, haven't it? And I said I am not interested in a third party that is not based on horizontal leadership, movement building philosophies. And when you see people who had criticism of the leadership, and when Renee had her concerns, and now you see the concerns popping right back up, that's everything we've been criticizing about a movement. And that's not us trying to go after Nick Brana. That's not us trying to go after the People Party. This is just an objective fact. We have said multiple times on the show, no top down, horizontal. The leadership should not be purging anyone who have criticism like this. But what are your guys' thoughts? We can start with Ron and then CJ. If you want to present this, go ahead. But that's all. That's the only thing I want to say on the story until tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, let me just read the tweet. So I mean, it's always here and there. There's rumblings about the People's Party and issues, and this this sort of her tweet sort of precipitated this last I guess situation with the same sort of issue. And this is her tweet: after several questions, I will confirm People's Party is purging staff, board members, and volunteers with open, serious grievances against Nick Brana. This is happening after months of retaliation. Obviously, I withdraw my support. So that was oh, I didn't mean to show this yet, but yeah, and I did put a poll out here. This is the poll: should Nick Brana step down from MPP? 479 votes. 48% says yes. 10% say no, and 42% are unsure. And then I'm gonna just to tell you what I thought. This is what I tweeted out earlier today. And I know Nick Brana, that is, and it's not anything personal. It's just that he's overseen a lot of these issues with the party, in particular, some of the same sort of issue of mistreatment, same sort of issue of him just kind of running things. And whether it's true or not, whether it has merit or not, just the belief that it's this way means that his ability to govern this is no longer effective. That's why I think he has to step down if you want this to continue as a movement moving forward. But he just simply is not going to be able to govern. Like, some people are not going to take him seriously. There's black groups that's not going to take him seriously. Like, he's not going to have the ability to govern this. So he has to step down, in my opinion. And that was my take earlier and my take now.
Yeah, I personally can't speak to, the insider things going on because I'm really not privy to any of it. But I can speak from my own experience of kind of where I'm at, because, I mean, I was at the Convergence conference in 2017, and it was amazing. I mean, it was an incredible event, and it was really, I mean, there were Greens there, there were environmentalists there was the SA was there, I mean, everyone, DSA, I mean, it's like everybody, like content creators, like just all kinds of people, all kinds of groups, all kinds of perspectives, just kind of meeting and realizing that we need a real freaking change in this country. And it was an inspiring event. And I really thought, okay, maybe there's going to be some kind of new lane that's really going to freaking work. And, my personal take, and this is still my personal take, is that for a real viable alternative outside of the duopoly, basically every kind of lefty third party needs to somehow get together under the same umbrella to be a force to be reckoned with. I don't know how you do that. I wish I did. But I think at the end of the day, to be a force to be reckoned with, that just needs to happen. Again, don't know how. But so that attracted me to what Peoples was trying to do. And then, Nick approached me at one point about being on the advisory council, which I was a little skeptical because I'm like, electoralism's not my thing. But I was like, well, what all does that involve? And he told me that, he's like, you are really into digital rights. So we want, like you could kind of help frame the perspective on digital rights. And that would kind of be like what you would do. And that sounded great to me because, one of the things I'm trying to do that I think I brought up on your guys' summit was I would love to eventually kind of build an actual digital bill of rights with people who are, way smarter than me, who could help me frame this, and also, try to get groups to endorse it, digital rights groups to endorse it, and also try to get political parties to endorse it. The Greens, Socialist Alternative, PSA, SEP, Peoples, like anyone else. So that sounded good to me. And then as time went on and the infrastructure started building, some people brought up like, okay, this should be an elected thing. What we're doing, we should be elected. So basically the way I understood it was that we were essentially going to just be placeholders until the infrastructure was in place. And then we were going to be replaced by elected people, which I thought was the way it should be. I'm like, yeah, that should be like, once you build the infrastructure, I get like just kind of appointing some people to try to help build it. But then once there's other people there, once there's a grassroots thing going, people should be elected to positions like that. And I personally did not plan on running. So I was essentially just happy to be a placeholder. And, there's been a lot of issues as of recent that I've kind of just been paying attention to. And one of the problems that I personally saw was, and this is just my opinion, but I feel like all too often it was just hyper focused on podcaster stuff and not focused on building a movement or building infrastructure. I'm sure that that doesn't speak to everyone, I'm sure. But I felt like I was seeing a lot of that, where it was just being like this very insular, just podcaster platform essentially. And I kind of thought that's not helpful, that's not how something like a viable political party can be built. So I basically, I mean, my stance now and what I wrote to Nick, I was just like, look, it was to my understanding that we were going to be replaced by elected people. I'm not even sure if that has happened or not, but the one thing I have control over is, I'd like to step down, not because I don't want to see, the group fail or anything like that, but because I feel like someone like me, who is also a podcaster myself, me having some kind of position that I was not elected for, that I have not been active in doing anything for over a year, that's not helping a cause, that's hurting it. And my reason for being there, the thing that I wanted to do and still want to do, that's something I want to do anyway. I don't need some kind of title to do that. It's something I plan on doing anyway and hope to be successful in. So, that's my personal experience and that's my personal take on it. I don't have a bad thing to say about anyone involved. And I also don't, have any firsthand experience from some of the conflicts that happen, but that's my personal experience.
Okay. Let me address this one. They're addressed it to be. So I'm still waiting for more info to drop. They're promising more info. That being said, some things I've read may change. No, it's not going to change my opinion, because if you listen to my opinion, I said regardless of wrongdoing. So let's say he is completely innocent of everything that has happened. The situation has gotten so bad that he still can't govern. So regardless, that's the point that I'm making, is that regardless of whatever happened behind the background, truth or not truth, the culmination of all of these things happening, whether true or not, it makes him ineffective as a leader. So no, that's no information is going to change that.
Yeah, well said. And let's see. I think did we get one more chat? But we can pretty well. I'm gonna have a stream tomorrow. Maybe I'll talk more in detail because it'll take me quite a while to explain this issue. Because there's some few things I've seen out the Peel Party that some people got upset when I when I raised my red flags, but we starting to see it. But maybe tomorrow we will have more information and I can parse it with you guys.
What
Tomorrow,
time are you going on tomorrow?
Maybe
You know
I
yet?
know you guys. I know you have your show sometime in the afternoon. Maybe I was thinking sometime in the evening. But I could join you. It don't really matter. We can.
No, I was gonna join you depending on what time. That's why I was saying.
Okay. Because I was shooting for the evening. So,
okay, just let me know the exact time, and then I will let you know if I'm able to make it.
All right, cool. I was thinking about like maybe 6 or 7 on Tuesday. So anyway, I think I just want to read this last sutra. I don't want to leave this guy hanging. So thank you, Steve, for $2. California Greens in coalition with P and F left unity
Peace
split.
and freedom.
Peace and freedom. I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I don't know what that means. So
yeah.
That's awesome.
Anyway. I vote for their candidates a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, again, I really, I mean, I don't know about. Well, I think we're all kind of in unison on this one. I mean, I really do want a viable alternative outside of the duopoly, and I don't know. I mean, I wish we could all, I wish we could all have the perfect umbrella tomorrow, but
yeah,
I don't know how to get there.
Ron, what you got coming up? Anything you want to promote?
Well, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So I said Ron, but go ahead, Ron.
Yeah.
It's all good.
We've been on a while. We're all like, yeah, no, I just, I'm going to be on the road in April. If you want to come out to a show, please do. RonPlacone.com. I'll shout off those cities again real quick. Pittsburgh, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Burlington, Portland, Boston, Massachusetts, and New York City. And then I might have some other, some international stuff soon, but right now that's all I got on the book, or more international stuff soon rather. But right now that's what I got.
Yeah, so we hear you, Aaron. If you got, we really got to wrap up. So if CJ gonna be live tomorrow, I'll be live tomorrow. So we're not trying to cut you guys off, but we got to end it at a certain point. So CJ will be live tomorrow, and we try to address everything when we go live tomorrow, guys. But we truly do appreciate it. For me, I'll give CJ the last word. So for me, I'm gonna have Comrade Misty on my Saturday show, so that should be cool. And then Lee Camp should join us on Friday. And then we got a roundtable on Thursday. I'm going live tomorrow evening. And CJ has his major show that he does weekdays, and that's all I have. CJ, any last words? What do you have coming?
Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow, 3 p.m. Just like normal. Just shouting out everybody on Rockfin who watch us, because Nick, this is our second episode on Rockfin. We're new to Rockfin, our content, so just shouting everybody. Just want to make sure you keep watching. I see the comments. OT Trucker. I see that. Hey, look, it's Ron Placone. That was his comment. You made a couple of them, but I read one of them. Lady Alex, hello all. Thank you for that comment. Christopher Hendrick, amen, Trucker. And if we don't vote for their appointed candidates, they just cheat and stay with it. Okay. So thank you for those comments on Rockfin, and I'll be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. I think that's it, Nick. We are signing off. Thank you, Ron, for joining us for this.
Thanks for having me.
Very insightful conversation for this temporarily called the Nick, CJ, and Ron show today.
Thanks for including me.
Thank you for that last comment, Nick. I'm going to go ahead and sign us off. So thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we are out.